Greetings, Sentinels fans! We're diving into the lore again, and yeah, this one's gonna kick my butt a little bit. Let's go into the lore of Argent Adept. I take life one day at a time. I'm not an ambitious person. I enjoy simple things. Coming home, having a good drink, and listening to some good music is my ideal state. I was never even fully aware that I was a musical prodigy, nor that I had an aptitude for magic. So it came as a bit of a surprise when I went to a museum and saw this Chinese bell. I was drawn to it. It called to me. Before I knew it, and despite the efforts of Dr. Blake Washington, I touched the bell. It rang, and suddenly, I was filled with knowledge. I could see my fate as a protector of the world. I heard the toll of destiny. Time around me stopped, so I took the bell and left. I learned that I was the latest virtuoso of the void, a role that had been dormant for hundreds of years, and that I had to protect the world from a great threat. Then I traveled the world, searching for other instruments of the virtuosos of old. Talaman's lyra, Musaragni's harp, Isodar's horn, Upunku's drum, and of course Zu's bell. And once I got all those, I knew I had to make my own instrument. I was always more of a singer than anything, but I did play the recorder in school, so I decided to make a set of panpipes for myself, my own instrument, where I put most of my power and soul into. My power flowed with the silver light of the Argent Adept. But while I found the instruments, I had to learn how to play them myself. How to use the magic of the void through the music. There was nobody to teach me, unlike my predecessors. They all had a virtuoso to guide them along. I didn't. I had to learn everything from scratch. At least, for a while. I was neutralizing a threat, the living swamp creature Mangrove, when it got the better of me. My abilities were hugely dampened, and I couldn't continue the fight. Until, from beyond a portal, a figure stepped out. This was another virtuoso. I couldn't believe it. Celeste Whiteworth, the Diamond Diva, used her flute to remove the blocks of my powers and finish the fight. Celeste was a virtuoso of the void, and she had been one for centuries, but she wasn't working in the material plane. She was more closely bound to the void than most virtuosos, and had to work from within it. She acted as a vanguard against the void's incursion. It also meant that she didn't have time to school me. She spent all her time in the void, needed to stay there to survive. She only showed up when she needed something from me, but at least it got me some of the knowledge I sorely lacked. I also learned of all the things I was doing wrong. Chief among them was the fact that I was using 6 instruments, 5 of them collected from past virtuosos, when I should be using just the one I created. But it's a little late for that now. I need every advantage I can take, or else get overwhelmed by the forces I oppose. One day I was faced by the one who threatened the world. I faced Akash'Bhuta. She is an earth spirit with void connection, who has been around since time immemorial, and has opposed the virtuosos since the first man. I fought her as best I could, but my void energy did next to nothing to her. She simply consumed it and continued to fight. I fought her to near exhaustion, but in the end I had to flee. I couldn't beat her. I needed help, but since I can't contact Diamond Diva, I will gather other allies. I found heroes that would help me, and we formed a hero team, the Prime Wardens. We faced off against the spirit again and fought. But even with all our might, we barely made it. It took the intervention of other people to prevent us from losing. Thankfully though, we survived, and the spirit was driven to ground. The Prime Wardens stuck together after that, as we often face foes that we can't beat by ourselves. Of course, we wouldn't all be together the whole time. We are very independent people, and we like handling problems ourselves. But even then, our trust in each other eroded, and things went wrong. I'm not going to go into details here. There are others you can ask about that. But Akash was not my only foe. There were plenty of monsters that come from the void, or take power from it. Chief among them was Tanarak. I have faced him many times, and he is a dangerous foe. When Diamond Diva approached me for assistance in dealing with him, I knew things were going to get nasty. Tanarak had opened a portal to the material world and was making his way through. Diva needed to fight him, but she also needed me to babysit the portal, as smaller creatures could use this opportunity to go through. I told her it might be a better idea to let me fight him, as I am more expendable, and if I fail, she can finish Tanarak off. But she dismissed me outright, said I would be destroyed in seconds. So we had our plan. Diva dove into the portal to fight the monster, while I protected home. However, as I guarded the portal, I saw an opportunity. A bit of power leaked through the portal, and I could sense it was a lot of power. And it was something I could use. I grabbed onto that tether of power and pulled. I took as much power as I could and slammed the portal shut, sealing away Tanarak once again. Diva could break off her fight and continue her work inside the void. At least, that's what I thought. The tether of power, I didn't realize at the time, was Celeste's power. I inadvertently stole Diva's power to seal off the portal. She was defenseless against Tanarak and the void. I killed her. But wait, it was worse than that. She didn't die, as Tanarak decided to leave her to the void, and she was forced to either die or bind herself to the void, to the point where she is now a void creature. The power of the virtuoso failed her, and she is now a monster. The diva had lost her diamonds, and she is angry. It's my fault. It's all my fault. And now I lost my greatest ally. And I am now on my own, facing the void. When Tanarak returns, I will be alone. So I spent time preparing. I needed some kind of edge against Tanarak. I could not let him through. I searched for more power I could use for the next time he appears, or if Akash'Bhuta comes back. I searched for anything. New instruments, nexuses of power, anything. What I stumbled upon during a battle was a baton belonging to another previous virtuoso and was stolen by Biomancer. I retrieved the baton from the flesh child sent after me and learned its secrets. It belonged to Franz Vogel, the Crimson Conductor, who used the void, but also dipped into blood magic. The rose baton had blood magic infused into it. It was dangerous, but it was also powerful. It may have to be a last resort, but it may be what I need. As for Akash'Bhuta, I seem to have lucked out there. She and the naturalist seem to have found an understanding. The two of them now work together, and she, now called Akash'Bhuta, now goes to right the wrongs of the world. My enemy is now my ally. The purpose of the virtuosos may be fulfilled, and I had almost nothing to do with it. However, there was still Tanarak, and it would not be long before I would have to face him again. However, the situation was worse. Tanarak went through the void and did something unusual. He cannibalized several loci of power within the void, powering himself up. He is no mere monster now. He is Tanarak, a void god, and he was coming to my world. Only I can stop him, but thankfully, I found a way. I can bind Tanarak to me, and I can fuse our fates. I can pour all my energy into putting us both out of existence. It's a drastic measure, and I would certainly die, at least. But with Akash'Bhuta no longer a threat, I can feel at peace, knowing that the void will no longer threaten my world. Tanarak is my last obstacle. My plan didn't account for the other heroes, though. I intended for my last spell to remove memory of me from the minds of others. But I guess I missed someone. They picked up on my absence, and brought together void-attuned people, and brought me back. That's strange. I don't remember his name. But he and the other magical heroes undid my spell, and ruined my efforts. With our fates no longer tied, the stake no longer holding him down, Tanarak is free. I will not be able to pull the same trick on him. He isn't stupid. He immediately went into hiding when he got free, possibly to simply wait for my death before returning to the world. I could no longer draw him out. If I'm to eliminate Tanarak as a threat, I would need to take him on. Meet him on his home turf, where he is strongest. I already know I can't face him as I am. I need more to manage this. He cannot win. I will not let him. I often don't know who to trust. I have been disappointed by many who I would consider friends, but I have also not behaved like a proper companion. But the many trials I've faced, and will continue to face, have taught me that I can't go it alone. So when my friends in the Prime Wardens rescued Tempest from Biomancer, reconciled and reformed the team, I happily rejoined them. We were a much better team after that, and we could rely on each other much better. I made sure I was more reliable too. I needed to be a better teammate. And ever since I died, I knew that I needed to enjoy the time I had left. I cannot know when I will have to lay down my life again. As such, I will enjoy every moment I can, but I must also find every opportunity to improve. I must find every opportunity to oppose the upcoming threat. I had to help my allies as well, and one that needed my help, though I did not know at the time, was Visionary. While fighting another villain, I peered into her mind and found two of them. One was the hero I knew, the other a darker, more deadly creature. During the cosmic contest, I found my opportunity to excise this creature. I needed a ton of power to do so, but I saw it as necessary. I shattered my pipes and unloaded all the power I held within to banish this dark visionary from my friend. Yes, it was a huge blow to my power, and I needed to bond a bit closer to Vogel's baton. It had to take the place of my primary instrument. But having Visionary back makes up for it. I didn't know at the time what kind of mistake that was. When a terrifying entity appeared on the horizon, I had to put my preparation against Tanarak on hold. For another, possibly greater threat came up on the horizon. First was Progeny, who came towards Earth like a wrecking ball. Myself and the other Prime Wardens were the first to intercept it. After failing to defeat it, I stood and held it down as long as I could to give my friends time to find information about it, and for the heroes to fight it. From what I've heard and seen, even after it overpowered me and left me behind, it still cut a swath through the heroes. It required several teams to take it down. But we knew that wasn't the end. It is Progeny, and therefore there had to be a progenitor. Whatever created it was coming. So we all prepared for the singular entity to arrive. And even when it did, it took everyone to come even close to combating it. When Nixius, one of the Scions, wreaked havoc across the world, heroes fought it, but weren't making headway. I noted that it was covered in some infernal sigils that were offering the monster protection. I spent a ton of energy to break the runes, shattering the shield they provided. But I needed to dip heavily into the blood magic infused power of Vogel's baton, breaking my connection to the void in the process. Nixius was vulnerable, but I was no longer able to use my power, only the power of the baton. I went to the Nexus of the Void to see if I can find something I can do to assist. Some power or ally I can use. With my limited void connection, I might not fight, but I was able to wake the island spirits. The Nexus awoke, and its power was unleashed. When I was there, however, I saw the results of my actions. In a previous conflict with the Thorathians, I found need to use up the power of an instrument to destroy one of the ships assaulting Earth. It was actually a similar idea I had with Tanarak. I bonded the ship to Zoo's bell, then broke the bell, thus breaking the ship. Well, I saw the spirit of Zoo, and she was a husk of her former self. Her void spirit was wrecked. She was now a void slave. This is what happens when the void energy in an instrument is broken. Even a patch job on the instrument wasn't completely enough to stop this. And of course, I broke my pipes to save Visionary. This is my destiny. But maybe it won't be. The Oblivion Conflict was devastating, but it provided an opportunity. Mist gates had opened all over the world, and interdimensional travel is easier than it ever was. So I searched for worlds I could use, and found what I needed. There was a world where, in my conflict with Akash'Bhuta, I was killed, and my instrument abandoned. I was able to find that Anthony Drake's pipes, and re-establish my connection to the Void. They aren't my pipes, but they are close enough to work. I then used what I could to summon allies once more. I used the connection to the Void present in every instrument I held, and brought to me the spirits of virtuosos past. Zu, Telamon, Busaragni, Isidar, Upunku, and Vogel. But then, the Nexus was attacked, and I was exhausted. Void Soul held us down, while Oblivion annihilated the Nexus. Akash'Bhuta saved me and the Naturalist, but I was done, out of the fight, and the Nexus was gone. It was up to the other heroes to finish things, so I was not able to help when Akash'Bhuta expended the rest of herself to fight the singular entity. Now all that's left of her is the tree. Akash'Flora is all that remains of my enemy, my ally, maybe even my friend. So until everything is done, until my time on the world is ended, I will protect and nurture her. But even without Akash'Bhuta and Oblivion, there is still a threat. There is still Tanarak. It has become clear to me that, while I can handle many threats, I need allies, and these allies need a connection to the Void. Diamond Diva is no longer an ally. I don't even have Night Mist to help, so if there are no allies to turn to, I guess I'll have to make some. There are people like me out there, those with magical attunement and musical talent. I can find them, and I can train them to be virtuosos. Some of us can fight the creature, and one of us may have to make the ultimate sacrifice. But the world needs saving. I can do more, so I will. If you find someone, anyone, who could be of use, please, send them to Megalopolis, to Akash'Flora. The Void is powerful, but dangerous. It must be kept in check. Okay, now let's unwind a bit. I actually have a fair amount of stuff to say about this character, more than I thought I would. First, things about his story that wouldn't come up in the narrative I made. There is surprisingly little to say about Argent Adept's personal life. It seems that this character is pretty much defined by his superhero role. If he has any family, they're almost never brought up. His friendships are important to him, but his job seems more so. And being asexual and aromantic, he doesn't have any romantic relationships. I could see a possibility in the metaverse that maybe some writer decided to make Argent Adept and Diamond Diva into a thing, and it ended up not happening because people hated it. This is a bit of an odd thing for a character who primarily acts as a support in the card game, though. This lack of any big relationships makes me think that Anthony's motivations are purely ideological. I do this because I should. Other heroes do what they do generally out of response to another factor. Legacy furthers his father's legacy. Absolute Zero has his grief and his loyalty to his friends. Wraith rebelling against her feeling of vulnerability. But not Anthony. Anthony literally just hears the call to action and acts. He didn't require any kind of prompting. He does it because he can. He's also not self-motivated. Yeah, he does enjoy hanging out and chilling with some tunes, but he seems happy to live a generally low-key life. Doing bartender jobs, playing on street corners. But he has all this power. He's not very material. And yet, a lot of his stories seem to revolve around hoarding power. His first instinct upon taking Zu's bell was not to practice and learn more, but to start searching for other instruments. He didn't even make his own until he had already found 5 other instruments. He took Diva's power without checking what the source of it was. He took and used Vogel's baton even though it was clearly dripping with blood magic. And depending on the timeline, he continues to suck up power where he can. And that's an interesting thing because usually that's something that a villain does. When heroes gain power from an outside source, usually it's something given to them, or they happened along it. They don't usually seek it out. Usually what heroes do are to take what power they have and find ways to use it more effectively. So they get better through internal means. It's villains who reach out to other sources of power in order to do things. Now, I'm not intending on making Drake look like a bad guy. He is clearly a hero doing hero things. I am seeing this more as a result of how he thinks. What sets Argent apart from Night Mist is that Night Mist studies. She is more of a classic wizard archetype. She has her power, but she pours through tomes to learn about magic. She studies. She makes tools to better use her abilities. The things she does are very calculated. Argent Adept, however, is very go with the flow. He feels more than he thinks. And such, he improvises more than he plans. This does mean that when he faces something that he can't beat, he will look to outside sources for an advantage. And since, at least at first, he isn't very focused on people, he defaults to needing more power. So him going towards I need help in the RPG timeline shows positive character growth. Him going towards I need more power in the Vertex timeline go towards more negative growth. It is worth noting though that he never intentionally takes power at the expense of another person. The only time he does, he loses possibly his best ally, Diamond Diva. This puts him in contrast to Akash'Bhuta, who deliberately takes power at the expense of the other spirits. Though when she accomplishes her goal, she is content to sit on the power that she has, whereas Argent hasn't gotten to that point yet. Anthony Drake just presents a very interesting case study for this kind of arc. It's cool. Now, I do feel like I took more creative license with this character than others. Since his non-hero life is pretty minimal, I lose a lot of context for his personality. Interpersonal relationships is a big indicator for me to assign personality to a character, so Drake was a bit difficult in this regard. All that to say, my voice for Anthony Drake might differ a lot from the common voice for him in the metaverse. I am curious if my read on the character matches other people's, though. Anyways, a bit of a longer one, so I will take my leave. Take care, friends. I'm getting a lot of extra light from the window here. We have a light. We have a light side and a dark side. Bring down the hair. There we go. Oh, how long did I take this one? 35 minutes. Not a record, but it's up there.